Hello, friends. In the last little while, certainly in the church, but even in the whole world, we've been hearing a lot about popes, about Pope Francis, now Pope Leo XIV, and a lot said about the men, Francis himself, or Leo himself, their character, their strengths, their history, all of that. But what I'd like to talk to you about today is about the relationship established by the ministry of the Pope, any successor of Peter, with the whole of the Church, and maybe a little bit more particularly about the relationship established between the ministry of the Pope and the ministry of a diocesan bishop, or to put it another way, the ministry of the Pope and the life of the Church of Saint-Boniface. So, and why I say that is because when Pope Francis died, and then the election came along, I had people coming up and asking me, "So, are you going to Rome?" And I said, no, they don't need me there, and what is going on there is the Holy Spirit and those more directly involved, the cardinals. Some would ask me, "Oh, so do you know, the new Pope?" No, I don't know him at all, other than the way everybody knows him, through the media. They would ask me, "So have you met Pope Francis?" Yes, several times in different contexts. When we did our regular visit reporting into Rome, that was in 2017, the last one, or around the visits of the indigenous to the Pope Francis in the Vatican, and his subsequent visit here in Canada. So yes, moments to meet and to say a few words, to greet each other, but that's about it. Now, you might ask, okay, well, in terms of that relationship between the Pope and the Bishop, so how did you ever get to be bishop? There are 4,500 bishops in the world. So how does the Pope, any Pope, appoint one of those? Well, for the vast majority, the process is this. At one point, the bishops of a region of Canada will put forth names of priests who could become bishops. In their mind, they could see them as taking on the ministry of a diocesan bishop. Those names are collected, they're sent to the nuncio, the Pope's representative in Ottawa, and he and his staff begin quite a detailed consultation to find out about such or such or such a priest. They'll ask the bishops. They'll ask priests who know that priest. They'll ask lay people, more and more lay people who know that priest. And then, nuncio gathering all that together, when there's an opening in a diocese, then the nuncio goes to his files and will choose 3 names to send to the Congregation for Bishops in Rome, Roman dicastery congregation, which oversees the selection of bishops, and they'll have a look at all the information, they'll vet it, and then finally they will send 3 names to the Holy Father. And the Holy Father then, I think it goes like this, because he doesn't know the bishops, doesn't know these men, he trusts the whole process. He trusts the Congregation for Bishops, of which Pope Leo was the prefect. Cardinal Prevost was the prefect of that dicastery, that congregation. So the Pope gets 3 names, and he chooses. I would think he would always choose number 1, the top one on the list. I don't know, but that's how the process works. And so, does the Pope know all the bishops? No. Is there a personal relationship? No. But there's a relationship of ministry. And that's important to understand. What I have here is basically the letter that Pope Benedict wrote to me appointing myself as Archbishop of Saint-Boniface. I had gotten a similar one when I was appointed Bishop of Saskatoon, and in it, and they're always termed the same way, expressed the same way. So here, Benedictus Episcopus, so bishop, in essence saying brother bishop, servus servorum Dei, servant of the servants of God and of God's people. And I think that that's really, how can you say, significant. Even the wording, Episcopus, he is the first among all the bishops, but it's a college of bishops. It's brother bishops, all working together towards one goal. And that goal is the mission of Christ, which is then the mission of the Church, and unity of faith, unity of charity, in carrying out together that mission. But you see, the language isn't the language of power and authority. It's the language of service. He is a servant of the unity of the Church, therefore he is, in his own way, servant of the bishops, who take on that same ministry. Each in their own diocese are servants of the unity of faith in that local church, in that diocese. So in terms of the relationship between a bishop and the Pope, sometimes people ask me, who's your boss? And I laugh when I hear that term, boss. And some people think, okay, so the bishops obey to the archbishops, and the archbishops obey to the cardinal, and the cardinals obey, to the Pope, all clear hierarchy. That actually isn't the fact. Every bishop, archbishop, the line of relationship, of responsibility, of accountability, is direct. From the bishop, archbishop, to the Pope. So, we work together, the Holy Spirit guiding us all. And so, then the relationship of a bishop to the Pope is, of course, one of respect and fidelity and obedience. When we become a bishop, we take a special oath as bishop of fidelity to the successor of Peter, to the Pope. So, what does that mean? Well, that means, of course, as the Pope continues to clarify and precise the teaching and the tradition of the Church, we do so also in faithfulness to the Pope, in faithfulness to the Church. And then, of course, this primary service, and I repeat it again, is the unity of the whole Church. That's what a bishop is responsible for, each in his own diocese, each in the own context, each in his what's happening in the church, in the world, in that particular part of the world. But also a bishop, and I would say then also all the faithful, all the people of God, all Catholics, will also listen to the Pope, and in this is where he's a prophet, servant and prophet. The Pope brings forth, emphasizes those parts of what it means to be a disciple of Christ, a missionary of the good news, a servant of the world. And so in let's say John Paul II, we had someone who called for new evangelization. In Benedict, a clarity of the expression of faith, the teaching of the faith. But I don't know if you know, but it was under his pontificate, his teaching, that the question of concern for the environment first came to the fore strongly. He was also the first one to seriously take on the question of how shall we respond to sexual abuse by the clergy. With Francis, of course, continuation, but also an emphasis on the periphery. With Leo XIV, continuation. But interestingly, it seems that the first note, it was his first words from, when he was presented to the world, peace. What does it mean to be artisans of peace, peacemakers? And so then each bishop, hearing that and looking at his own diocese, with the clergy, with the lay people, what does it mean here? Listening to each other and deciding how we bring that portion of life of faith to our diocese, to our context. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to what Pope Leo XIV will be leading us towards. Thank you.